Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get started. So let me get your eyes up here. I'll try and record this for classroom as well. So let's talk about how to make characters and sections using the Bone tool. So last week we looked at making one whole character and putting asset work tool on it so that that character behaved as like one moving mesh. But this time we're going to be working on making basically pieces of a character, and then we use the Bone tool to attach those. So this is another method to give you a character for animation, but I would say it's a bit more micromanaged. Like you can move each bone system independently. So first thing I'm going to do is start drawing a character, and the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to draw the character with arms and legs out, extended, and I'm going to kind of draw my pieces here, right? So we'll make a face here. Remember to close off things that you might be filling with the fill tool because of the gaps. Now, anything that's going to pivot, you're going to want to kind of do rounded joints on both sides. The reason being, if you drew an arm straight out and then you cut it here and put a bone tool, when it goes like this, it's going to actually have a gap, right? Unless there's like an overlap. I'll show you what I mean here. Let's go ahead and make a side character here, like this. I'll try an object mode. So if I'm making an arm about where the elbow is, and I go in and do a bone tool system, so let's say that this is the shoulder here, this is the elbow, and the hand would be out here, right? And actually, let's make a hand, a simple hand. So now I go to bend the elbow. Notice that there's a gap there, right? Those square edges. So basically, if you like draw an arm out straight, there's going to be a gap as soon as you bend it, right? Because it's going to have to separate there. So what we do is we make round overlaps on either side of the joint. So I'll show you what I mean. Let me get rid of this layer here. Okay, so on this layer here, where I was drawing the character, knowing that his head might rotate a bit, I'm going to draw a neck joint here, but I'll kind of round it at the top and at the bottom. And then I'll draw kind of a chest area, same deal. Kind of want to have a rounded spot, and anywhere where there's a joint like at the arm, I want to have it kind of rounded out there. So here I might want to round a little bit for the waist and also where the legs go. Okay, I'm going to use the paint bucket tool and start filling in some of these parts. This paint bucket tool, don't forget about the gap options here. Now remember, if you have a piece like this, you can double click it to edit the piece. And the more you double click it, the further you go inside. And now I'm hitting, because I've gone inside the drawing object, so I'm hitting back. Okay, here. Okay, so kind of on my way, I'm just going to draw two hands here real quick. Okay. Now you'll notice on like the wrists and stuff, I'm doing these little overlaps. You'll see why in a bit. Okay, now having black outlines where parts of the body meet is not a good idea. So in the real world, I would actually kind of draw over those. I want a black outline maybe around the outside, but not so much where the pieces overlap. So I want them just to look flesh colored, right? Hmm? Wait till I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and click this one here, make sure I get the whole thing. Now remember, you can hit Command G to make something a grouped object. Like that, I just want it to be one object. I'm going to do Edit. And then I should be able to duplicate it. And then flip it over here. So let's do transform. And notice we have flip horizontal. Okay, I'm going to kind of group each of these sections. Control G. Sometimes I say Command G. That's just because we had a Mac lab before. I'm used to saying things in Mac terms for all of you. But Control G to group, or you can right click, or you can go up to modify up here, and you can group things or break them apart. Now, if something needs to be in front of something, as long as it's an object, you can right click and say Arrange, Bring to Front. And you can also put stuff in the back. Okay, so we have a simple character here. So I'm going to take the bone tool and I want to make one central point in the middle here. And you can only do 1 point per object. Now you might have to break down some of these groups too, which can be annoying, or even better, convert them to symbols. So I'm going to click this one here and say modify convert to symbol. For some reason it doesn't like groups sometimes, so I'll say L hand. And it's got this registration point. If you want to save some time, you can put the dot on the right saying, hey, it rotates and stuff from here. You want to have it on graphic. We'll talk more about symbols later, but they're pretty useful. Convert to symbol. L forearm. The naming is up to you. I just like to use descriptive names so I know what's what. So I'm still using descriptive names, right? Upper arm, chest, etc. Right, lower arm. Right hand. You can also right click and just say, I believe they have, yep, convert to symbol. You can hit F8 too, if you want, on the keyboard. Neck. Now you might have to do a range again. So I'll do this, I'll go ahead and range. Maybe send backward. So you can still layer stuff the way you want. Okay, so now that everything is a symbol, we should be good to go. So I clicked, remember it's only 1 point per item, so I added one to neck. Notice it gives me a no sign anywhere else than the neck. So I have to go to the next object. You can still range these, by the way. So I'm going to bring forward. I'm soft deselect it and try again in a minute here. So I'm basically laying out the joints where I need them. Now, quick tip, you can make an invisible item out here, because notice now, since I can only do 1 point per object, I have no other point to pull and actually rotate the hand. So a lot of times people will make like a little blank object. Now, quick note, this is making what we call an armature layer up here. So if I go up here, it's actually pulling everything that I click a point onto this special armature layer. So if I want to go back and click one of the normal drawing objects, I have to move back here. And this we can animate. It just works differently because it's got a bone system, right? So anything that hasn't had a point put on it at this point is on layer 1, and anything where I did put a bone tool is on armature. So, okay. Now I'm going to make a little invisible point out here, or for now, since we're just kind of doing this as a test, I don't care if it's visible at this point. But you can use the opacity to make it visible. Now the reason for this is because when we're going through and doing this bone tool, I can't click in the hand object again because only 1 point per object. So there's not another handle to rotate the wrist from. Does that kind of make sense? So this is like a ghost object that allows me to make another point here. Now I can use this to pull and rotate the hand. Same deal here. I don't think I made the waist an object yet. So, because it's behaving oddly now, so let's check that out. See, it won't let me do another point here, so that's why I'd have to have like 2 legs there. I'm just gonna really kind of cheese the legs here and just do like some pretty basic stuff. Now once again, I probably want to make sure that I have object mode on, because if this were pane, it would actually get covered up behind this waist and it would be hard to select. Now it's not letting me draw anything because once again I'm on the armature layer, so I have to go back to a basic art layer to actually be able to draw something there. Okay, I'm going back to armature layer, and now I can connect legs. Okay, quick note, if you don't like where the point is, because at this point, once there is a point in here, you can't really move around where it sits in the object. Like if I wanted to have it closer to the end of the elbow, it's kind of hard to do that from here, because if I try and select these points now, it's just going to move them, right? So quick trick, if you need to move where the point is in the object, you have to double click the object. And then see this little X here? You actually move the object in comparison to the X, and that is what sets where that point is in it. Does that make sense? Does everyone get that concept? Like, if I don't like where this point is sitting inside the forearm here, and I want it to be closer to the elbow, well, I can't just click and move it, because notice it moves the arm. So to actually move where the point is in an object, I have to double click the object a couple times. And then this dot here, basically I'm moving the object and the point stays in the same spot, right? So I'm moving the whole object and that changes where the point is in it. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so I want to go back through one more time and do arranges on these to bring certain things to the front, like the face and stuff. Okay, these areas where I tried to kind of draw out the black line, same thing here. I'll double click this because I want to edit a little bit, and I just want to, I'll hit I to use the eyedropper, and that allows you to choose color here. And I just want to kind of paint out that black outline there, or I could just move the hand object in front of it. Kind of depends on how you want to do it. I'll hit this back arrow again. Alright. So this character now has points that will move like this, right? So there's one problem though. His arm shouldn't be able to move like that, right? So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo it here. Maybe one more time. Now, what I want to do before I move anything, it's helpful to start choosing some of these points. We can actually lock down stuff like its rotation. So here, that point in the center of the chest, nothing on our body pivots from the center of the chest, right? Arm moves from out here, but nothing pivots from the very center. So this point shouldn't move, translate, like move an X and Y, or rotate at all, right? Rotations can happen here, and they'll happen from about up here to when my arm's at my side, right? So we need to make it so that some points don't move or rotate at all, like this one, and some we need them to only rotate a certain amount, but they shouldn't move in X and Y. My shoulder here is going to rotate, but my shoulder doesn't really move up or down in like an X and Y translation, right? So over here, if you don't want any rotation, you can turn this off. Or if you want to just constrain it to a certain movement, you can do that. That's rotation. This is X translation, aka side to side, and Y translation, vertical, right? Just like a graph. X movement side to side, and Y movement up or down. Okay, we have some spring here, and this is things like hair and stuff that you want to kind of spring or spring. So there's some options here. I'll put up a video that explains a bit more of this, but that's the basics, right? So this shouldn't move at all right here. This I only want to rotate a bit. Okay, so maybe from, I need to hit the arrow, black arrow there. I need some movement, but not a ton. So on this joint, what I probably want is no translation on X and Y, and some rotation that's constrained to maybe like 30 degrees or something. Now when you have a constraint on there, it's going to kind of show you. Do you see how this is green and it shows like a point of rotation that's just about 45 degrees, right? It's pretty good about showing you that. So I'm going to, actually I don't want rotation on that. I thought I had this one selected, but it's actually the one. Okay, there we go. So this one now, I'm working on this joint, which is what I want. So I want my rotation to be like maybe -30 to maybe 30. I'll try that. I want no translation because our necks don't really move. They only rotate. They don't actually move to the side, right? Okay, let's see what this does. Now, see how this green thing here, if I mouse over it, the blue thing gets away, but see how it shows an area of rotation there? It shows you how far out of a full circle it can rotate, right? Which is what we want. Now, the neck only goes about that far, right? We want to do the same for the head. So clicking does what I call selecting a point upriver. And I call upriver because they all flow from the central point, right? So when you click downriver or something, it tends to select the point upriver from it. That's just the way I refer to it. So if you hear me say that, that's what I mean. So this is now selected. I don't need any translation. I do need rotation, and I think same thing on that. I'll do -30 and 30. Okay. Now I'm hitting V on my keyboard. That's just a shortcut to get back to the arrow. Okay. So our head's doing this. That's a little bit more realistic than it was, right? Same thing on arms. Shoulders are going to have rotation. Now, technically, you can do this. You can put your arm in front of you and do like a full 360. But if you don't plan to have the arm in front of the body like this, it's easier just to make it go from here to like at your side, right? So, same thing here. We'll select upriver or downriver from it. And I would say no translation at all. But I do want to constrain it. From here, I'm going to say -90 to 90. See how that looks. Okay, now, once again, you can't see if I mouse over this, but see how it's got that green indicator that shows the area of rotation? So it's pretty much half a circle, and that's about where I want it, because I want my arm to move from up here. Let's see if I can zoom out a little. Okay. So the elbow and stuff isn't set properly yet, but the top of the arm is. So the arm's going to stop there as far as the top part, and it's going to go up that far, and that's about where I want it. So next I would do the elbow. On the elbow, I want it to go from... Here's another way to do that, by the way. If you hit constrain, you can actually click this and drag this, and now I can see that green indicator. Okay, so now the elbow only goes from here to here. Hand, same deal, joint rotation. Okay. So that's a little better. Now, if you think ahead, you can basically make these joint overlaps look a lot more realistic. In this case, I'm just going to put the hands in front of the arm. Okay. So obviously the hand doesn't look perfect. If you put the point down a little lower, though, it tends to look better, or if you work better on the overlaps. Does that make sense why we have those overlaps, though? Because you can see here, when I pull this at an extreme rotation, if this was just square, it would crack right there, and there'd be a gap, right? But because we have these overlaps, it does look more natural. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on doing the overlaps, so obviously they look a little weird, but the concept should make sense. Okay, is everyone with me so far? Okay. So next thing I'm going to do up here, we need to establish an animation. We have this armature system, and notice that this is turned green because it's a special type of layer, it's armature. I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to say, because we can do insert pose, which is kind of like the keyframes that we use for different pose, right? Also, I can go out here, just like I do with other things, and I can hit F5 or F6. This extends the timeline, but I only have a keyframe right here because nothing's changed, right? So I can go here, and I can just move something. Notice it makes a keyframe for me, because just like a motion tween, it detected a change. And I just basically move ahead in time and set everything where I need it to be. All right. Well, I think that sums up all the basics. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording here. We can do a question and answer session after this just to see if anyone has any residual questions.